think we should be okay. All right, here we go. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Zoobox Goes to the Movies. I'm hot and sweaty edition. I just got done mowing the lawn moments ago. Have not changed. Have not showered. Doing a lot of things that the subjects of our topic of discussion today would never do. Would never be caught dead doing.
Definitely not.
These guys would not mow lawns. They don't believe in it. They don't think it's right. They don't do it. So we're going to be talking about TFW No GF, the recently premiered documentary on Amazon Prime. They did this virtual South by Southwest Film Festival. So the films were available from last week until I think the middle of this week. I think on the 7th. I think that's the last day you can watch them. I wasn't really interested in any of them. I was really bummed that The Green Knight didn't end up as part of it. The Green Knight.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to see. That looked cool.
Yeah. The Green Knight was supposed to be, I believe, part of South by Southwest is going to have its premiere there. So I was like, oh, fuck, maybe they'll put The Green Knight.
Were production issues?
No, it's just you had to volunteer. Like it was basically they made an offer to these filmmakers, be like, hey, do you still want your thing to premiere? We'll do a virtual thing. Well, it'll be free for everybody. Because you didn't even have to have a Prime subscription to watch this if you were, they just put it up for everybody. There is one other one that I want to check out before it's gone. It's about Johnny Cash's first wife, Vivian Cash. It's another documentary. And then all the fictional narrative ones, I had no interest in whatsoever. And I don't really watch short films. I only make them. Watch Sad Guy 86 on Zoobox Podcast. But anyway, so let's just get right into it. This was directed by Alex Lee Moyer. Alex Lee Moyer. What else has Alex Lee Moyer done? This is a woman.
And this is the debut of her directorial debut, right?
Yeah, it is. That's right. She's worked as an assistant editor. She was thanked in the credits for Alt-Right Age of Rage. Wasn't that Netflix documentary? Did you watch that? I thought you watched that. You told me about it.
Maybe. I think so, but I can't remember it.
I think it's on Netflix. I could be wrong. I remember hearing about it. I never watched it. It was about, I think it's mostly about like the Charlottesville rally and.
Yeah, I did watch it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, she was thanked in that for some reason. This is her directorial debut. And then she's worked as an editor mostly. It seems like most of her career in both fiction and documentaries. So right off the top, Dan, how hard were you radicalized?
Pretty hard. I mean, it wasn't that great. I mean, as a documentary, it wasn't that great. I was kind of like bored a lot.
You know what it reminded me of? Mm-hmm. It's not to cut you off. It reminded me of, remember that, except the subject just isn't as interesting as Dark Days. Remember the documentary about the guys?
Homeless people?
So it's more like this fly on the wall. They're just hanging out, just catching little bits of conversation, doing little interviews.
Yeah,
I thought that one is much better.
Dark Days is better. But I can see like that same type of style of documentary.
Yeah, it's kind of like the fly on the wall. There is no interjection by talking heads or whatever. They just kind of get to speak for themselves. You see them in their environment, see their apartments, you see the cities they live in. They walk around and pontificate and talk about their what they feel their status in life, what they feel like what they're doing means, and at the
end of the day, it means pretty much nothing. Just trolling.
Maybe.
I mean, it was just nothing really happened. I think that kid in Texas was probably somewhat the most interesting out of the group to me.
I mean, I think there's something like, and we've talked, I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the podcast. We've talked privately about this, though. I think the idea that people treat these guys like they're like these evil pariahs and really and drive them further and further underground and like ostracize them. And like, these are dudes that clearly have problems. Like they're not well-adjusted people for a myriad of different reasons. And there is a real depression, and a lot of them are dealing with serious depression in a way that actually like affects their life. A lot of them are very smart. They're a lot smarter than like the average person. I think that makes them feel alienated. And then they find an outlet online. There's a whole culture there. And one of the guys actually makes a really, one of the dudes that I think they're the brothers the Joker
Or
guys.
they live together. Yeah,
Yeah, or they live together. I don't know if they're brothers or if they're just roommates.
they do look related. But yeah,
He makes a kind of an interesting observation where he's like, we're probably the last generation that there is a difference between online life and real life. Like kids nowadays, all of their formative experiences happen within the bubble of online. That's where they get those experiences. It doesn't happen out in the streets anymore. Not to, to be weird, but it just doesn't.
right.
So their first time flirting is online. Their first time, expressing certain types of ideas are online. It's
Probably true.
the line between real and virtual is getting blurred a little bit, and so there's a lack of perspective there, and what that creates is people that have kind of a lack of empathy, a lack of ability to understand like human cues and human emotions, and I think in a deeper way.
Yeah, no,
Thank
I
you.
think that's actually it's a fair point. And I'm not saying the documentary didn't have an insight into that culture that was at least interesting. I just don't think the documentary performed in the way that it just didn't hit home. Like there was no like, oh, well, that I can connect with that in a sense, I guess.
Well, yeah, I think the thesis of the documentary is trying to like kind of explore the plight of the modern
Man.
young guys, kind of the plight they have in life. And I thought it was weird that it was all white guys, because that's just not the reality of online culture. It's not all white people.
Well,
So I think it's there. Honestly, I do think while it tips its hat being like, we're not going to mischaracterize or villainize or demonize these guys, but then it is full of things that I think that are meant to actually do that. And I think that half of the dudes in this documentary are trolling this documentarian. I think those dudes, the Joker guys, the guys with the guns,
yeah.
I think they were trolling her a little. They're saying, isn't it going to be funny when she tries to make us look like psychos in this documentary?
I think the I can't remember his name. Their names are forgotten to me right now, but the kind of overweight guy, he
Cantbot.
yeah, that guy, I think.
He's really smart, really bright guy.
He's definitely, an intelligent. Trump will be the one to raise fool and like all this stuff. And all that stuff. You're like, oh, it's all good, but then at the end, I mean, I think he's like kind of the crowning moment at the end is when they're talking about Mustafa. I can't say his fucking name. Faust and
Mistopheles, yeah.
Mistopheles, and he's kind of making that comparison between maybe what their culture is going through in some sense. But there's just nothing that sticks out. It's kind of hard for me. I do think the kid in Texas, he was the one that seemed to be the most, like, at least real about it, like in a real sense as far as what his personal dealings with. And then they had that kid that started weightlifting because he's becoming a man now, and he got on Tinder, so he's becoming a man, I guess. Is that kind of what they're trying to say, that he's moving on?
It's trying to give you like a vertical slice of what type of people are involved in these communities. And I don't think these guys are really, like, I think maybe the weightlifting kid, maybe the kid from Texas, the cowboy dude, like maybe they're like incels. I'm not sure the other ones are really incels. They're more just like trolls. And I mean, those two, the brothers or not brothers, whatever they were, when they flash some of that shit on the screen, I was cracking up. I mean, that one ticket to Joker, please thing that he got in trouble for.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's just trolling the people that were writing all the crazy articles about incels gonna shoot people at Joker. I mean, it's just become they were just playing into the meme. It's I don't know.
I guess if you're gonna make it a comparison to like the Joker and because he is an incel, right? I guess in that isolated,
he
hates
is.
the world, has like very serious depression and other mental disorders, kind of ignored, shunned by both masculinity and femininity. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really fall into any category. So I think if you are growing up at some point in your life, if you're a normal person, you're going to feel some sort of, alone, being alone.
Oh, yeah.
Or that feeling.
I get really defensive about dudes like this because I think I identify with certainly some of the things they have gone through, the sense of alienation and feeling alone, even when you have friends around you, even when you have family around you. Sometimes you just just don't feel like you fit in, and you can't find your
Sure.
footing because of it. So I definitely have empathy for them in a way, and I think when I see societies like this cool kid club, like fucking new school mean girls, it's all like the nerds that felt slighted in high school. They decided to just jump onto an ideology that empowered them for being weak, and then they shit all over people that aren't like them. You know what I mean? Like this kind of
Yeah.
Twitter sphere, these bloggers and stuff like that literally just think these people should just go fucking kill yourself. You're so evil. Instead of reaching out, because they're just human beings, and most of them are fucking kids. So you should maybe you should reach out and be like, don't fucking go down that dark road. Let me help you. Let's talk. Like,
Yeah.
just to normalize things for people, and they don't get that, and this really disappoints me as and especially as an adult looking back, and you're just like, why aren't people just more generous? I don't
Well,
know.
I think it comes down to more of to valuing the individual, not the group identity, and I think that's really what these kids, they had to find their own group because they weren't feeling valued as an individual.
Yeah.
If they would have been valued as an individual, they would have never had the need to seek out a group that is of well, maybe that's not the right way. Because I mean, even if you're valued as an individual, you still seek out groups. But it's when I think Jordan Peterson talks about it a little bit. He goes, when the group identity is valued more than the individual identity, that's when things can get dangerous, and that's when there's
Yeah.
problems.
Well, that's what Jordan Peterson, one of the things he was heavily criticized for, because he reached out to these people. He reached out to the Kekistani boys, the
Yeah,
Pepe Frog stuff. He
yeah.
interacted with them, and then they say, "Oh, you interacted with them. That means you endorse their behavior," and that's not the case at all. It's like he was just trying to be an adult, and you fucking talk to people
He,
like this. You don't
Jordan
fucking
Peterson went to the belly of the whale for them.
yeah.
Okay,
Straight to the belly of the frog.
straight to
You
the
know,
gulag.
Pepe.
He
But
just went in there.
I just yeah, but that's the kind of reflexive, kind of judgy culture that we have. You'd have somebody like Jordan Peterson, and whether you like Jordan Peterson or not, I don't. That's up to people's personal discretion, or opinion. But to suggest that what he was doing was endorsing their behavior because he reaches out to them so that he's trying to help them in his way and the way he thinks is might be effective or get them to hear a different point of view. That's what everybody should do. If you think somebody's being radicalized, if you think people are being radicalized online, don't you think you should maybe reach out to them and talk to them? But no, they don't want to do that. They
Well,
want to have their little tribes, their little clubs, and it's us versus them. It gives them this imaginary enemy for them to feel good about themselves and virtue signal against. And they don't actually they want to create monsters to fight.
who is the chick from the Westboro Baptist Minister Church, whatever?
Oh, the one that left, the one that's
Yeah, the famous
yeah.
one that
I
was
don't know
on
her
the
name.
Twitter board.
Yeah, I can't remember her
Whatever.
name.
A Kate or
Safety
something. It's like
yeah.
Kate or something. But I think she would have, if someone didn't reach out to her, and she would have probably still
That's
stayed.
That's what makes some of her opinions so fucking weird now.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's been
She's-
brainwashed.
I'm
She's
seriously.
she's obviously very easily manipulated.
I guess so. Because you're like exactly. You're to your point. You're like you came from this, and the way you got out was people talking to you on Twitter.
I think it's an even more interesting point, though, is for someone coming from her perspective, someone or anyone within these complicated communities, I guess is the best way to put it. Yes, I agree, but then you get exposed and you feel normal, and you find a group of people that make you feel normal and whatever. Like you adopt some of those ideologies, and it's probably
sure. You want group acceptance. So you're gonna start agreeing with things and rationalizing what, even if people say things at first, you're like, oh, I don't know about that. And then at some point it becomes normal to hear it. And then at some point, some people, if you're susceptible to suggestion, you might actually start buying into it. Or you only see, it's like when you watch YouTube videos about crazy conspiracies and stuff, when you see them in a vacuum, you're like, wow, that's pretty convincing. And then you start trying to look into things or picking things apart, and it all falls apart like pretty quickly. Anything in a vacuum is like super compelling and interesting, and so a lot of times when these guys, they get into these communities and they get like red pilled or black pilled or whatever they call it, it's just like this very narrow view of history and the future and politics, and kids get funneled into that stuff. I don't. But I think the problem with that stuff and the solution is not to ostracize, is not to try to drive it further underground. You don't want these guys on the dark web where nobody can see them.
Yeah.
You should want this stuff easily accessible to anybody, so that anybody can see it. Anybody can look into it if they want to. And yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know where I was going with that. I cut you off too, so I apologize.
No, you're good. Well, I think it's the acceptance of should we accept a society that some people may be radicalized? It's like having Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf still in publication and available to read in English. Is that something that because it is part of a historical record. A historical record of someone's thought process. And should we deny that? Because at the end of the day, if you say, okay, well, you can deny Adolf Hitler's, words from being continued to be read, whether or not you agree with them, it doesn't matter. Then you should be able to deny people's right to read the Bible. Like, no, it radicalizes people. It makes people think that being homosexual is terrible and that you're going to go to hell. So blah 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 blah.
I mean, it's all a matter of perspective, right? And anything that can be used against you could be used against me, and that's why people shouldn't advocate for censorious bullshit. Because at some point it's just going to get turned back around against you. It's just going to happen. It always happens. Maybe it'll be 5 years, 10 years down the road, but it'll happen. That's why when you saw the religious right in the 90s trying to fucking act the way it did and be censorious.
I can name an even more recent, very recent example. And I think the best recent example is the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement against Brett Kavanaugh, and then you look at the Me Too movement against Joe Biden. Completely different in their approach. Yeah. Well, you know what I mean?
They just lost credibility. They just literally blew themselves up. Like they blew it up. Nobody's ever gonna take that seriously ever again. Nobody's gonna take anybody from that movement seriously ever again. You'll have to divorce yourself from that concept of justice or whatever. The hypocrisy is incredible. It's fucking insane. I don't even know if it's true. I'm not saying the allegations are true. I have no idea. But
it's the hypocrisy of it.
Yeah. The idea that like we're not curious all of a suddenly we're not curious about it.
Well, I mean, she has more corroborating people.
Yes,
that are like six people have come out.
She can actually prove that she met him before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit more. You should take it a little more seriously.
They brought that motherfucking lady to Congress, Dr. Blasey Ford. It was a fucking circus.
It was a circus.
It's craziness. But
and then it ends up not mattering, and we've all moved on, and he's still got the position, and it was.
And then her lawyer comes out and said we did it for political reasons, and it's like, get the fuck out.
Well, behind the scenes guy. Well, they give an interview. They give an interview, right?
Well, of course it was politically motivated.
Yeah, because they're political activists. I mean, that's not a secret. But anyways, we're talking about these. I mean, men scorned. We're talking about Brett Kavanaugh types.
Well, does it come down to okay, how many of these incels? I'm wondering most of these people probably never had a girlfriend or no type of true sexual encounters.
Yeah, that's what incel is, like the desire to have a relationship but the inability to get one. It's like, I can't get laid when I'm a teenager. And then that continues for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but is it can you have not at one point not been an incel, like had a relationship, had a girlfriend, maybe had a really bad life experience that made you super depressed, and then like maybe like weight problems or whatever the thing could be, and then you become an incel?
I think so. I think you can.
Right.
So yeah. A lot of incels, because it's older guys that are kind of like muddy the waters for younger dudes.
Yeah.
So they'll have guys that have gone MGTOW. Do you know what the term MGTOW means?
Yeah, men go their own way.
Men going their own way. So you have those kind of guys. They get in these forums. And they're probably in their 30s and 40s, and they're talking to 16-year-olds.
Be strong.
Well, they're telling like young guys like, oh, fuck them, fuck those bitches. They're just gonna fucking ruin your life. The fuck are you doing?
I mean,
fucking don't even worry about that. Like, you can't get laid. It's like, you're a pathetic piece of shit. Like, nobody wants you. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. Like, they do that to kids, and it's fucked. It's fucked up.
Well, I guess it's not their fault not knowing what age they are. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's anonymous. It's online, so it's not necessarily. I think put all the blame on them.
I think you can kind of tell when you see what people write, like the kind of where maturity level they're at. Not specifically age, but you understand the maturity level. You can see the things they talk about, the things they're into.
I agree. I just think it's the internet culture is that type of culture, though.
I agree. No, I agree
Yeah.
with you 100%.
Very antagonistic.
I think, well, yeah, it's all trolling and it's all kind of basically extreme forms of male bonding. It's the kind of shit that you do with your buddies. Actually, if anybody's interested, go check out. We did a bonus episode of the regular show this past weekend called Booga and a Looing Edition. It's about Latin music and dance appreciation. Anyways, but what that is like, what were we doing? That's 90 minutes of like acting like out male bonding stuff where you're giving each other shit, making jokes. You know what I mean? That's what that is. So you take that kind of trolly behavior online and then you're just writing it out. That's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I mean, it is a form of bonding, I think, in a sense. And there is, I mean, Jesus, some of the things I've said to my friends, and I know you've said it, we've all joked about suicide shit you and I have together.
You think this our regular show gets dark. You have no idea what we actually say to each other off microphone. Yeah.
Right. Because geez, we'd be in jail or something probably. But it's part of nature. And dude, women are not any better, I don't think.
No, there's a different version of it. That's all. It's a different version because people are different. I'm sorry, guys. Hate to break this to you. Men and women are different. Men are from Mars. Women are from Venus.
I don't know, dude. I've had some pretty savage women in my life. Maybe it was just because of the military, but because they were probably more dude-esque than.
Yeah, well, there's exceptions. There's always exceptions to the rule. I'm just saying, in a general sense, you have, women have more of a, and I this is obviously a heightened satirical version, but something like Mean Girls. That is
it's psychological warfare. It's more psychological.
More psychological. Dudes are more just like upfront abrasive. There's a psychological component. Don't get me wrong.
No, there is, but
it's all posturing. It's all like machismo. Yeah. Who's the smartest dude? Who's the quickest? Who's the Well, so don't get in a room with me, buddy. Don't get in a room with me, buddy.
Once again, my true incel is coming out because I'm going to bring up Jordan Peterson again, but he does talk about the thing that separates the difference between men and women is. Men always have the threat of physical violence. There's always that threat there. With women, they don't really resort to that very often.
It's like kind of when you're like goading somebody.
And you're pushing it.
Even when you're buddies.
Yeah.
You see how far you can push it. Like you see how far, in a weird way, like how before you get an emotional response. And that's almost part of the fun.
Yep.
It's like who's gonna like be like, oh, hey, that's you don't have to do that, but you don't have to say that. Like,
it can. I've pushed it too many times to know. Like I know, like I've been there, and I've had it pushed on me. But like, sometimes it's just that one guy that you're just not really in the mood for, and it happens. But the thing is that stops it is the threat of physical violence.
Yeah, 100%.
Like that's the whole point, and that's what I think the incel community, at least they aren't very prone to physical confrontation. That's probably another thing that they're not good at defending themselves. So they resort to being introverted and not.
Well, they're also they don't like grow up with that sense of things, right? They don't have that barrier because the distance that doing things online provides. You don't actually have to confront somebody to say awful shit to them. You get to do it through this virtual wall. So the idea that what kind of effects it really has. If you go out and do that shit in real life. There are consequences that are beyond somebody just getting upset at you. Like you said, there is the threat of physical violence. There's tons of stuff like that. But when you're online, you don't feel that sense of danger because somebody can't leap through the fucking screen and grab you. So you're kind of free to just say fucked up shit.
Which is why I think, in a sense that the public education system is failing. But at least you get that. Like you get that, or even doing sports and
100%.
All this stuff. You get that competition, that physical violence, and I mean, this is a really maybe off topic, and this is bad, but I have to bring it up because I was thinking about it. So I was watching, maybe not a lot of people know this. I'm mumbling, but anyway, not a lot of people know this, but I wouldn't say a struggling musician, but I'm a trying musician with my own struggles. But I was thinking about what's the thing that separates. I watched PJ20. Then I watched, I've been watching Dig again. I mean, kind of going back and watching like a lot of old documentaries and stuff. And the biggest thing I noticed is competition. Like their competition drove each other to new levels.
Yeah. Usually there's I don't know if that's the narrative that they build into those documentaries to make it more interesting.
No,
Or
they don't. Well, a little bit in PJ20, but it was more of a friendly competition than
yeah,
an
yeah,
actual hate
yeah,
between Soundgarden and Pearl Jam,
yeah.
or
And then people
originally
would say
Mookie
people say
Maywa.
this, but before that came out, they used to say it was Nirvana. So that's what I mean about like
They bring it up in the no, but they what I'm saying is in the beginning stages of it's like forming manhood. You
yeah,
need that competition. You
yes,
need
yes.
that
You're all
that
friends.
wall.
You're all friends, but you're all also trying to get the spotlight from each other. Like
Yeah,
that's the experience of being in a small town in a band, and you're trying to
yeah.
everybody's trying to make it. You're all friendly, and you all help each other. But at the end of the day, you're like, I want to make it, not you. Like I
Well,
want to be noticed. I'm gonna make you. You look like a fool if you play after me, like or if you
yeah,
play before me. You better bring it because I'm gonna bring it twice as hard.
yeah. And I think it's one of those things where, at least in the lack of competition, maybe that these kids are introduced to at a certain point, these incel kids are maybe their parents aren't there for them, or it could be a genetic thing. I mean, I'm not saying that it's always going to be the parents' fault. But probably 9 out of 10 times, it's probably going to be the parents' fault.
Yeah, parental involvement is obviously a huge factor in what happens to a kid as they develop. Obviously, right?
Is
Because
there? But
if
do you think there's a point where it's not? Like
well,
what
I think
age?
well, I think like the online stuff, right? It's so new. It's so the past 20 years. Like so, if you think about just the history of people raising kids, it's such a new phenomenon. People didn't really know what it was. They still don't. People are still learning. I'm like at the first age where I'm like, and not even a lot of people my age really have too much of a well awareness of this shit. I'm a little more keyed in because I love looking into weird subcultures and stuff. It's a doorway opens up to all that shit. But like somebody like my buddy Paul, like he doesn't really have a good awareness of these like how big these communities are, how they operate, why they operate the way they do. Like he wouldn't really know if his kid was in there like although
Right.
no, he would know in the sense that he monitors what his kid does. He's like, monitors his use on the laptop and shit, but
But I mean, obviously, once you get to a certain age, it's probably going to stop. And this raises even a more important question,
well, that's why
as
you got to
far as
instill your kid with good values before they get there.
I might be the first advocate for this, but what I say is like I want to create like a summer camp or whatever. This sounds really bad from a man my age, but create a summer camp, no cell phones, no laptops, no like getting kids out there.
Secluded, alone with
Yeah,
me.
yeah. But you look at something like the Boy Scouts, or I remember one of my first experiences, I guess you could say, of I went to this thing called Nature's Classroom. It was like a week and a half thing when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and I just remember like being terrified because I knew people, but it was a real fear. Like you're 3 hours, 4 hours from home, and
Yeah.
you got all these random adults taking care of you and stuff, and then they put you in a barn and tell you to close your eyes, lay on the floor, and tell you that you're a slave. And yeah, like we had to do an
Oh,
escape
yeah,
thing.
like a slave. Oh, okay. I was like
Then
the
they came
Poughkeepsie,
out, sacrificed a goat, and then just
I was
blood.
thinking of the Poughkeepsie tapes.
Yeah, but like there was
Your
definitely some.
name is slave. No,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I didn't know you meant like actual like slaves from the South.
like they stripped us of our names, like of our real names, and gave us fake names. Like did all that weird stuff, and
Yeah, to have like a dehumanizing moment.
yeah, to
Yeah.
make us realize, black, white didn't matter. Everyone was put in there. So it was interesting. But I just remember those were moments where I was in sixth grade or so, and I just remember having to like stick up for myself for like the first time, or like really having to be like, fuck you, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like not just like a little fight on the playground, but being like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, but those are experiences that I think are needed. And
Yes.
maybe I wouldn't have had that experience unless I went there, maybe.
No, probably not, or it would have happened in a different way. I think these things, like we are talking about, like going back to what you said about the competition thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
these guys, they get online, and that becomes their competition. Who can like be the craziest?
Who can be the biggest troll or the
Who can be the
biggest?
biggest troll? Who could say the darkest shit? Who can like come up with the best little quip? Although the one ticket to Joker, please, is one of my favorite. That's just fucking hilarious.
Isn't that when he had a picture with his gun?
Yeah, he's
Isn't
got his
that-
guns like this, and
yeah.
that's he got banned from Twitter for that.
And that's a really interesting thing. I think what we got to ask ourselves is how can we protect? They want to protect us, our society, or our children, or whatever you want to call it, from these aggressive, but like you said, if they aren't shown in a public forum and we don't know they exist, so they have to go to like the deeper, darker parts of the web or create.
Yeah, they'll always exist. You can't make them disappear.
Right. But like then that's really where the trouble begins, because then you create a sense of
martyrdom, echo chambers.
I would say martyrdom, or even just like a sense of I'm special. I'm part of a special group, a special thing. No one really 100%. Knows about it. And you have one guy that's the leader. You're given, and it's a cult. It can turn into a cult. It really could.
It feels like it validates the path they're on, because they're like, well, they obviously don't want us talking about this stuff, so there must be something there. Like that's what a lot of people that are like Holocaust deniers and stuff, they feel. They're like, well, if we weren't right, why would they care?
Well, it's actually, there's a reason why that the government itself does not take shit off the internet, even they know like there's stuff on the internet that is absolutely exposing security measures for protection level 1 resources, like things
they don't. You can't point to anything, because then
if you take it down, people are gonna know.
Yeah.
It's like people are going to know that that's not supposed to be there. People have already screenshot it, got it, and it's going to be shared anyway. So they just leave it up. Just instead of hope to saying, well, the government would never really leave it up, and makes people look crazy saying that this stuff exists.
Yes.
And it's the same thing that you're going to see with anything. And it's just like the UFO tapes. They didn't take them down. Why didn't the government go like clean, like go find them, like and constantly take them down, like the UFO videos? Why didn't they go like hack shit?
Because it would just make people feel like it validated the fact that it's real. Yeah, 100%.
So that really comes down to when they take down these, like you said, when they take down these guys, these hardcore trolls, the one Ticket to Joker guy, and call the police on them. Didn't they? They came in.
Red flag. Red flag law. Yeah.
What state were they in? Washington. Yeah. Doesn't surprise me. Fucking, you need the Bundy family to come up there. They would have fucking just took over. But that really raised a really interesting question. How much should is online is just as real as real life now. It's becoming more and more impactful to real life than it probably has ever been before.
Well, it's just, yeah, it is.
There's a whole job economy, dude, on it.
Because people strip context away from something. If you can just isolate, so you isolate that tweet, one ticket to Joker, please. You isolate it from the context of everything that was going on in the media surrounding the movie The Joker at the time.
People wouldn't even get it.
You don't get it, because that is the joke. It's making fun of the articles about incel shooters going to see Joker.
Dude, I
2 months before it came out. You know what I mean?
I knew a dude in the military that was from Aurora, which is where
where the Dark Knight shooter, Dark Knight
and Rises. Like I didn't know that, and I was like a little young guy in the military, and I made a joke about it.
Yeah,
did not go over well. He's like, "How fucking dare you?"
Oh, that's.
And I was like, "Oh shit, my bad, dude."
I guess
he knew people that got killed in that theater. Like he knew those. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, well, if he knew people, I can understand being upset. If he's just from Aurora, he's a cunt. Anyways, when people take ownership of tragedies because it happened, it's like somewhere they know about.
Well, I mean, there's it's a community impact. I can understand. That's kind of like 9/11. You know, it kind of hit everyone in America kind of felt 9/11 the day it happened, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I remember. Yes. You remember where you were when 9/11 happened. I remember where I was.
I do.
So it's a cultural significance. D-Day, or not D-Day, excuse me, Pearl Harbor, and D-Day too, probably. But these culturally significant moments, and if it happens in your community, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I understand like being like it not being your cup of tea, but being actually like yell at somebody would probably be a little much. But anyways,
and they had that egg white dude. They made that song about that kid that ran over those people.
Elliot Rodger. Yeah, well, there's a whole. Yeah, it's Elliot Rodger.
I thought it was like Marquesian or something weird. But anyway, no, that's fine. But that was really just like that is absolutely trolling.
Yeah.
How could people? Well, there was that other kid too. There was another.
Elliot Rodger was basically like he's like the incel poster child. He had like tons of psychological problems, a lot of problems with women and getting women. he kind of radicalized himself, and like he became like an icon, like part ironically, part unironically. Um, like I said, dude, some of these people they got mental problems. They're not
Yeah.
people that you should be shoving into closets saying don't
Yes,
ever talk to them.
I
Because
agree.
if somebody were to like saw that stuff from Elliot Rogers, he was posting videos like these fucking dumb cunts. I can't. My mom tells me that I deserve more. It's just like all sorts of crazy ranting and raving. And imagine if somebody like just an adult in his life reached out to him that wasn't an asshole and
You
just
know,
talked
dude,
to him.
going back, if you go back and watch Joker with that perspective, as
That's
looking
the
at
whole
him
point of
from
the
like,
movie. That's the
well,
whole point of the movie.
I kind of always looked at it, not that I always kind of viewed it as a social thing, like a social class, or
It
as
is.
far as like different social classes, as far like wealth and poor, like
Well,
wealthy,
yeah,
poor, and
but it's also but that's part of it. But it's also about mental illness and
no,
how
no,
people
it definitely is. But I feel like
ignore
the
it.
social classes is like to me was always kind of stood out a little bit more in that film. But um,
He turns into the Joker at the end, dude, because people ignore him.
well, yeah, no, I'm just saying that like talking about how the rich people can kind of get away with what they want, and that
Yeah.
he fucking killed those two guys in the subway, and they were like from a wealthy area,
Yes. Yeah.
and it
That's
was about
part.
the poor
That's
people killing. That's
yes.
I just it always stuck out to me a little bit more
Yes,
than
because
maybe it was supposed to. But
it was well, no, that is part of it. It's like part of the equation, the class thing. But I
I just
think the actual thesis of the movie, if there was a thesis statement for the
sure,
movie, is that don't ignore people that are in pain. Do not ignore people that have mental illness.
right.
Actually try to help them because he's trying to get help. He's trying to do the right thing.
And
He's
all I'm
trying
saying
to get
is
through his life, and he keeps getting
fucked
fucked with.
over. Yeah. All I mean is going back and actually watching the movie with that lens on, like watching it with that lens, saying, "Hey, like this is an incel. For if I like this would be an interesting. This is what could happen to somebody in this community. I know it's all about
Yeah.
mental illness,
Well,
but
and that was the great irony about all those articles that came out 2 months before the movie came out about how it was going to inspire incels to go shoot people and stuff. It's like you guys completely missed the fucking point of this movie.
or did they or did they hit the point right
No,
on the fucking head in the
no.
sense? And no, what I mean is
Well,
like they actually nailed what the movie is talking about. They're doing the exact thing that the movie is trying to say not to do
but
before the
yeah,
movie comes out.
no, they are the talk show hosts. They
Yes, that's
are
what I'm
the guy.
saying.
Yes, yes, that was them. They're
It
like,
was the
this is what I was.
perfect.
This is what I was describing before about these bloggers, these Twitter people that have like these. They fucking think they're moral authorities about what is good and what is wrong and who should be able to
Yeah.
watch this and who should be able to say this and who should be allowed on what platform. It's fucking insane. And that was the craziest thing about all that. It's like you guys just like right over your fucking head.
Well,
I
they
mean, and
didn't.
I'm not even a big fan of that movie. I think it's okay.
I think in defense, in some defense of they hadn't seen the movie yet, so it's not their fault.
Well, no, a lot of those people had.
2 months before. Oh wow.
Yeah, it premiered in like early September, late August, I think, at like Cannes.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's where those articles started, and people were like, "Should we start writing about this movie so early?" And they're like, "Of course they're going to do." And then what happens? It creates a snowball effect where people that just are ideologically aligned with whoever writer they're following just agree with them. They're just like, "Oh, I trust this person.
That
They
movie
must be
was
right."
It's probably because of that it was so successful, though. The
Definitely,
controversy, right?
definitely
Played a role. So in a way, they fucking did exactly in the movie what is basically saying not to do.
Yeah,
they do that, and they made it more widespread and probably make them. How much was that movie made for? I think like 30 to 50 million. Nothing like crazy. And it made almost $1 billion, didn't it?
Oh, it did. It went over $1 billion.
That's fucking epic. That's so epic.
Incels
That's like the
won.
biggest fuck yet. Incels won. Yeah. and you know what, the perspective I think you brought up earlier was probably interesting, and I want to note the statistical data on it. Which, you know what, dude, after like listening to Eric Weinstein, you can't trust shit that comes from any paper. You just can't fucking trust like any like. Dude, it's so sad. It's so fucking sad.
It's a whole insular culture that just protects itself.
Disc. That's what we are, dude. We're the disc. Okay, we're gonna
disc.
Or no, we're trying to take down the disc. Rephrase that. Floor gang. What?
I wish the cover for that podcast, the Eric Weinstein one, was him going like this. Get in the portal.
A lot of people don't like him, but I fucking dig him.
I do. I like him.
But anyway, so I think the thing that you brought up was really good, and they did only show white guys, which is obviously on purpose. But I do want to know, like, what is the statistical data
between white and black people,
or just any other person of color? It doesn't matter.
Asian kids, black kids, fucking Muslim kids.
Well, but that's what I want to know. It's like
all these things.
I want to know what the is it a majority white?
It's gonna be majority white.
You know, are we talking like 60%, 50%, 80%? That's what I'm wondering.
But the reason why is because everything is majority white, because that is just the makeup of the country. So no matter what you look at, unless you look at certain,
that's got to be a worldwide community. It's got to be a big community all over the world.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Are white people the majority of the world?
No.
Or Europeans? No.
No, Indians and Asians make up 2 billion right there.
Yeah, they breed a lot. So
yeah, Africa, pretty much no white people except South Africa, but took that shit over. Colonizer. Just watched Black Panther like a week ago.
There you go.
So many subtle racist shit. You're like, I don't know how to feel about this, but guess what? You know what? I can't be mad. They can get one.
You're allowed one racist superhero movie.
Yeah. But talking about this, I wonder what the racial, is it societal? Is it cultural? As far as is it broken up into where, is it because maybe Hispanics are really like more family, close living together situations?
Sure. Yeah.
And you take the suburban white kid that has technology, has the ability to, and finances to.
I would say most of these kids seem like they come from middle class to lower middle class families. So they probably didn't have a ton of struggles financially growing up. Their parents weren't rich, but they were probably okay. Kind of like our parents for a lot of our life.
Yeah.
Because I will totally admit, or say, not admit, it's just a fact. This is mostly a disaffected white male movement. And the reason that it exists is because you have an entire infrastructure of mainstream media and stuff that literally go out of their way to do nothing but demonize these people from the time they're fucking born.
Would you say it's systemic?
Yes, it is systemic. If the cultural message is constantly fuck white men, constantly, it's fucking weird. It's counterproductive. It makes no goddamn sense. So you have people that literally grow up watching media and TV shows and sitcoms and cartoons and movies and all this shit that you're just a piece of shit and you're guilty for everything that's ever happened in the fucking world. It is the most bizarre, it's new paradigm that we're in, and it's starting to go away. It's starting to go away because
slowly,
because this kind of stuff happened. And people are like, yeah, pump the brakes, maybe.
All right. I think it's become more or less, let's be real. White people were definitely had more privileges for a long time. I mean, we got to be real at some point.
100%.
But not today. I don't think today. And maybe in certain areas it could be true. Yeah, but hey,
you could still have the effects of something that happened a while ago because of where people ended up geographically.
Yeah, we
kind of systems they're in. So of course, those things are things that I think we should still be working towards flattening out 100%.
Yeah, but that doesn't flatten the curve, dude. We got to flatten
that curve, baby. That virus, the racism virus. The hidden enemy.
The hidden enemy. Well, I think really what's happened is you went from technically the systemic oppression of people of color, and then what they try to do is the ultimate knee-jerk reaction, and then try putting out all this media and stuff. So you take the kids that were not a part of that system. So you a lot of these younger kids, they didn't grow up in any position of power. They didn't grow up. They would not know any better, right? Mm-hmm. So then they get being told that they're the fucking problem. And they're just like, wait, what? How am I the problem? Because that's how I would feel in a sense of growing up. You knew me growing up. I fucking dressed like I was a wigger, dude. It happened. There was a few years I adopted the black culture. It was a fun time. But I just never felt bad, about being white, even around my black friends. I mean, okay, they would give me shit for being the white kid.
Yeah, but
there was never
but there's a mutual. It's something that even when I grew up too. I had friends of all different ethnicities and stuff. and we just used to make fun of each other. They just
Yeah.
like you had Puerto Rican friends, had a Mexican friend, had a couple black friends, had a Polish friend. You know what I mean? Like, and you
Yeah.
just make fun of each other
It's one of
constantly.
those things where, I mean,
Gay
I don't
friends
know.
make fun of your gay friends. They make fun of you back. Like, it's fun. It's fun to make fun of each
I
other
didn't
with your
have gay
friends.
friends until I was in the military. Like really, like a
Shit.
friend. I
Oh
just
my.
never really had met anyone that was gay in my
Well, because
group.
honestly, there's actually not that many gay people in the world, so that's why.
Well, I don't know. The numbers keep climbing, They
Well,
keep coming
that's
out.
just listen. These trendy kids, that's confused about their
Like
sexuality.
I was
Joking.
talking to my friend and his stepsister is 13. She says she's trans. And you got to be like, well, what? And this is the thing. And like I said, hey, dude, whether I would hope that your mother doesn't let her do hormones, but just from I think it's wrong to let a child start dabbling in that stuff, or someone to be at least wait until they're an adult if they want to do that. They
Well,
can
you're
do
gonna, yeah.
or it should be clinically diagnosed that you have gender dysphoria. But there's also a huge problem within the community with, and this is the biggest problem. This is a big thing that Eric Weinstein's always bringing up, and how we've let ideology, and Jordan Peterson as well, we've let ideology drive our statistics and our data sets. We've let ideology corrupt our education system. So it's mind blowing that we've let it get this far. And I think the incels, these kids in this documentary, for example, are going to be some sort of, they're that clash back to it. They're clashing with this system of being told that, you're no good, or that you're just a piece of shit and you're misogynistic because of the jokes you make, when they just really haven't found a woman yet to
And they're
identify.
immature, and like you said, like they haven't found somebody yet, so that they don't have that empathy center.
Right.
Um, and granted, I can understand some of the shit they write is fucking awful. And if
It's awful.
you don't know who the fuck that is, you're just like, holy shit, who the fuck is
Yeah.
this? But if you understand the context of who they are, which is who they're writing for their followers or their friends or whatever, the people
Yeah.
that understand. And most of the time, it's usually talking about how sad they are. They are the Wojak meme, like they
Yeah.
are that thing.
And it's a
I
form of
love
self-expression is good though, and expression should be always validated in a sense. And we,
100%.
as long as you're not calling violence to people, a person or group, like true violence, like go
Yeah.
hurt this person, which for some reason the left always gets away with. But the documentary maybe really did make me think more than I thought. But now that we're talking about it, it's a good conversation to have.
No, it is. I think if the documentary is good for anything, is that it does just open this conversation up, and it
Yeah.
humanized those guys. I think
Yeah.
it did humanize them. I do think it is like tacitly kind of being like, look at these goons, um, a little bit. Just there's some of the framing and stuff. There's some stuff in there. Because I watched it twice.
Oh,
I
okay.
watched it like once last week when it first came out, but I watched it on my laptop, and I was kind of like, I have my
In
kid
and out.
around, I have
Yep.
my kid, and I wasn't maybe as focused. I'm like carrying it around while I'm
Sure.
doing other things.
Passively listening.
So last night, I had some time to kill before Foster's bed, but I didn't have a ton of time. And I was like, oh, this is like 90 minutes, 80-minute movie. Oh, and Sarah was there. I was like, oh, maybe Sarah would want to watch it. So we watched it again, and yeah, that is kind of revealed itself a little differently to me the second time, where I was like, okay, well, maybe this is not as sympathetic as I thought it was.
I never really got the sense of sympathy. I think The Fly on the Wall was a good depiction of how it was filmed, but
Yeah.
there was always a sense of, look at this. Let's just look at it.
Well,
Like,
because
would you just look at it? Just look at them.
when you're making editorial decisions for stuff like this,
It's got to be hard.
well, but you notice little things like when they hang on an awkward beat for a couple moments more than they need to. That's to make somebody look awkward. When
Well, yeah.
when somebody can't remember something, and then you kind of make them look stupid for a second by the way you're framing what they said, that's on purpose. And I'm not making a judgment. Like, I don't really care. Like, in terms of what this director feels or doesn't feel. I know some of the subjects of the movie have come out and have been like, nah, like you got tricked.
Oh, really?
I mean, that's, at least I know the Campbach
say
guy, is like, no, we goofed
You got
a little
trolled.
bit. You got goofed a little bit.
I mean, there's definitely an argument to be had about any type of culture and any type of culture that is controversial. And should we block out these voices and should we not listen? And should we do the Joker, just push them all into a dark room and tell them to shut the fuck up and hope that we never hear from them again? You lock them in the basement, and then what do you create? A monster.
And I think obviously no. I think you need to talk about these things. You got to talk to these people. You got to talk about this stuff in a fair way. Don't be disingenuous. Don't be fucking bringing your own baggage to it. You got to take people on their own terms sometimes. Just hear them out. That doesn't mean you agree with them. Doesn't mean you endorse their behavior. But at least you got to try to make an effort to understand why they think the way they do,
Absolutely.
why they feel the way they do. Because there's a root to something. There's always something there are always signs. There are always posts that bring you back towards a kind of a home base for where your life experience starts and where you are then. And it's worth exploring with some people like this, because obviously I think a lot of this is just the modern malaise, modernity, depression, and people trying to understand how to exist in this new paradigm of the way technology intersects with our lives.
I think that's absolutely fair, and I think it's also not just the interaction, but the
framing,
the framing of it. Like, what is the purpose of social media, or what is, once you realize that it is the front, and then you need. CIA. Yeah, it's the front to the image. It's the glossy picture. It's the filtered life.
It's fake. Yeah,
it's filtered. And you just going, okay, but maybe these kids don't realize that, and it can be depressing, I guess, if you feel depressed and you see everyone always so happy, having fun.
Well, a couple of years ago, they actually, just to back up what you said, they did had their first 10-year study of social media being in people's lives.
Can't trust a disc.
Probably can't trust it. But they were saying there is a huge spike in depression of kids from the age of 9 to 14. And the reason is because they never have, one of the causes, you don't have private time anymore. You're always plugged into a version of reality. You're always checking. You're always looking for validation.
What are you going to do?
I have a box. I'm going to put him in it. 18 years later, he's going to come out. I'm going to put some books in there.
Yeah. No, but honestly, if you think raising your son in this culture, and you also got to ask yourself, well, do you want to make your kid that weird kid at school that doesn't have this?
I don't. I think you got to find the right balance.
I think it's all about management. You got to manage the time, and personally, if it was me, this is just me personally, I don't think it would be a good idea to have any child under the age of 14 on social media. 14, 15, maybe, just because you got a lot of weirdos out there. And I just, I don't know, dude, that shit, I watched a interview with this woman and this guy. This is completely off topic, but it might be an interesting thing to end on. They were this pedophile basically found her on Facebook, because through somehow a mutual friend added her. She didn't think anything of it, whatever. And he stole her kid, because she posted pictures of her kid all the time. Yeah. On social media, and they when one night, he waited. She knew where she worked because of social media, blah, 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 blah. Went to her, followed her home. They waited until midnight. All the lights were off, came in and stole the fucking kid. And you're just sitting there crazy, that's it. But you think about it, you're like, dude, that's the real world we live in.
I do. That's how I feel. I do not I use social media to stay in general contact and to do whatever, but I very rarely post pictures of my kid. I very rarely do anything like that. Granted, my wife is not as fucking disciplined as me.
But you just
but we fight.
Craziness.
We have arguments about this sometimes. And this is not exposing anything I shouldn't. So shut up. Shut up, America. No, but I'm just, because I was just why are we allowing these people that we knew 15 years ago to see every intimate detail of our life? Just because I talked to you one time does not mean we're going to be I'm going to share things with you.
I think the biggest thing to say is this, and this is the last thing I want to say about it, and you can go in your little spiel before we hop off. I think those intimate moments that you're talking about, right? like your intimate moment. That, like, why are you sharing with the world? And I think that is an exact reason why why we shouldn't be sharing some things. Because I had a friend, a dear friend of mine, good friend, and he one night, he comes home and there's dishes in the sink or whatever, right? And his wife is upstairs passed out. It's like 7 o'clock. She's tired, taking care of the kid all day, and he does the dishes, and he takes a picture of it and he posts it to social media and says, "I just want." This is what you do for your wife when you love her or something, right? Because she had a long day. He went on this long rant. And I just said, it kind of destroyed the moment. It destroyed the moment for me. Because,
I agree.
like, this should be an intimate, personal, that's such an intimate thing. That's real intimacy. That's real, like, love and appreciation.
Yeah, and you don't need to virtue signal to people that you're a good person in your private moments.
But then what that does is another fucking person, another couple sees that, or like one of those people in the couple, like, you don't do that shit for me.
Oh no, it does. It causes problems.
And you're like,
fake.
dude,
it's fake.
Like, he took 10 minutes and did the dishes. Like, I mean, is he a hero? Like, what's going on here?
And now he's like going like this on social media. He's giving himself the old
Pats on
back.
back.
Like, I'm just a good man. You know me.
That's a Leonhardt crew. He opens Pokemon cards, and sometimes I watch him. Pats on back. I don't know why. I don't even like Pokemon, but sometimes I'm an incel, dude. It happened. I'm de-evolving.
I've been radicalized by the film The Joker.
Yeah.
No, I 100% agree. It's not something I understand, the impulse or the need to like, I get bothered because people get offended when you don't like wish them a happy birthday or like,
well yeah, you got the notification. I know you did. Okay.
Oh, I don't think Sarah will listen to this, so I'll just say it. But like, she fucking sent me a text and said, "Oh, you're gonna send me a birthday message on Facebook?" I was like, in my head, I was like, "Bitch, you fucking for real right now?" So I just wrote the most standard. I literally wrote, "Happy birthday, Sarah. I hope you have a great day." Like, just the most standard, because I was just like, no, that's gross, dude. I don't Papa don't play that.
I think that's a problem. It's a little weird. I love you, Sarah. If you listen to this, I love you. I just think that was a weird moment, and we all have them. But there's definitely things about, I think, the internet culture and the social media culture that has changed the way relationships should happen.
Sure.
And I think they're right. And I think you're absolutely right, dude. But about what you said earlier, people, when the first time they flirt, it's going to be online. The first time they have maybe even like some sort of sexual interaction between sexting and messaging. Yeah.
Or a discussion or an argument or a disagreement or anything.
And dude, it's so dangerous. And that's a big problem is we don't know how to argue in person. I realize that a lot with a lot of people. They don't know how to argue in person. And even my teachers.
Well, because they're used to having a one-sided discussion constantly, where they're in the power position. They don't have to answer to you. You ask them questions, etc.
Right, and it's sad, honestly. But
there's an art to having conversations, and it's something like, I think, over the past however long we've been doing this, since the end of September, the beginning of October. I mean, we've gotten better at it. You can watch people actually like evolving into, how do you actually talk to each other? How do you talk to each other about things you disagree with? How do you talk to each other about things you're passionate about?
And you will fail, and it happens.
And you will, and that's okay. And that's part of just existing. And I think that scares a lot of people. People get anxiety about that stuff,
I think just because I've always been such a controversial person. I always have been. It's just always been a
contrarian.
Yes, very much so.
I'll be
the first to admit it. But I would be the kid in school, like, arguing with the teacher in 4th grade. Like, what the fuck is wrong? Like, what the fuck? But that's kind of who I was. And I think that's why that led me to being, as Jordan Peterson, once again, would say, being disagreeable it leads to usually being somewhat successful.
It can.
You're disagreeable in nature. Not too much, obviously.
No, people can't not want to be around you. But
disagreeableness just means you don't let people walk all over you. And I think that's, that's just a good thing. And maybe the incels maybe they're very disagreeable people. And they're just so disagreeable that everyone's kind of like, fuck you. Rein the disagreeableness back a little bit and you'll probably be all right. Yeah. Go pet a cat. as Jordan
Well, I
Peterson.
think I think it's just once they actually have an opportunity to just engage in like normal social stuff, they're happier because that's what brings people out of
and
depression.
and
The
that was the
isolation
kid
is
from
not
Texas. The kid from
isolation
Texas in
is
the documentary did that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, isolation is just not healthy. Like, I am a person that appreciates and enjoys solitude. I like doing
Almost too
things
much.
almost too much, right? Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I
Me
was
too.
just gonna say there's a point where it's unhealthy, but like doesn't mean that I want to be alone or lonely. Like I don't. There's a difference. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to be alone,
You just want your time.
but I do like a little bit of space. That's it's a
Yeah.
conflict in my life, but because sometimes I want too much. I get a little selfish. I'm like um, and I
Dude,
think
wait until you can have a man cave, dude.
yeah, I know. Well, this is the equivalent of the man cave at the moment, but
Fair
I
enough.
guess
It works. It works.
I got the PS3 hooked up. I'm ready to roll. Um, no, I think that's the key to a lot of the problems that these guys have is not meeting a person or having a tangible physical presence friend group. And I think that would actually solve a lot of their problems.
And I think also maybe a part of the problem is the lack of. I think they're called NEETs. It's like
Yes, yeah,
I can't remember the acronym what it stands for, but it's like
the guys or people that end up moving back home or live with their parents and don't have jobs after college age.
yeah, after college age. So like hey, listen, dude, I'm not no judgment or anything, but I think if the parents were maybe pushing them to get more of a job, maybe that would help. Or
Sure,
it seems like there's definitely the parents. Because, like, all right, I have a friend. Let's call him Mr. Fritz Lang. And the reason why I'm going to call him Fritz Lang is because his first name starts with M, and M stands for murder. So Fritz Lang, you know him, I know him, and I think we both could say that the parents play a role in the cycle of his self-abuse.
sure.
In a sense. I
Oh,
mean, I'm
100%.
not saying
Yeah,
they're bad people for it, but
yeah, but
it's kind of tough.
they're not. This is what I mean about the failure of fucking adults. They just don't even have any fucking clue as to how to and part of it is I don't know, I can't speak for this for sure, obviously. If you don't take responsibility for the mistakes you made, whether it's how you raised a person or what you did, and you can't recognize that, how the fuck are you supposed to rectify that later?
But I also think it's the failings of our reliance on doctors. And this sounds horrible.
Yes.
But I mean, my friend Fritz Lang, he has been on some psychotropic, whatever, antidepressants since he was like 8.
Yeah.
That's
obviously
crazy to do.
And now he's got
Severe problems.
Serious problems. Like serious actual I can't control these things problems.
And it's terrible. It really is.
A lot of these neat guys, like, they're so fucked up. They're so depressed. They're so nihilistic. They have so much apathy. They don't even give a fuck.
Dude,
so it gets to the point where their parents are like, my kid will literally be fucking homeless and probably die. And what do you do in that situation? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the right answer is.
I'm not saying that like Fritz Lang's parents should be held accountable. Like they're trying to do their best. It's a tough situation.
No, it is. Of course it is. It's not black and white. It's not simple.
Yeah, it's definitely not. But I think I met this guy when I was in the military. I'll never forget. I never talked to him again after. I never saw him before this. I never saw him after it. He was like a magic man in the night. He came in. We were all getting fucking shitty, and there was 3 dudes left at the fire pit. And then like he started opening up, dude. He just randomly, one of those drunk. Just start opening up, talk, and he was an incel.
Yeah,
he was, and even in the in his, he's like, I fucking hate everyone. I fucking don't give a shit if anyone dies. I just fucking don't care. I fucking hate everything. And we were like, bro, what are you doing, man? Just fucking but we like 2 damn near mid 25-year-old dudes like hugging this guy. Like, it's okay, man. Like, we accepted him, though.
But that's like, that's because he was looking for that. He needed that.
Yeah,
and I mean, that's what. But that's like there's a part in the documentary, right, where somebody writes this thing, and he's like, "There is no treasure left. All the adventure is gone out of the world." And then somebody in response writes, "No, everybody has a treasure inside of them." Yeah. So it's like everybody's looking for sympathy, support, understanding, a tribe. All these kind of things. I wish the documentary was broader in its focus and not just so kind of fly on the wall. It's just kind of random anecdotes of these dudes.
Yeah.
You get to see a little bit, I guess, humanizes them, see who they are as just human beings. So it's good for that. But and it's good for like stuff like this. We had a good conversation.
Yep.
Touched a lot.
What would you give it overall?
I would give it like a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay. I will say
6.
I'm going to give it my first watch. Now, this is kind of interesting. I have two reviews. Pre-discussion, like a 6. Post-discussion, like a 7.5. Because I think the discussion that we had made me actually like it more. Because there's a lot to discuss there.
Yeah.
So I would say after post-discussion, I'd be like, maybe it really is not that. It wasn't a great documentary, but it did lead to really interesting discussion, which I think is important.
Yeah, and I think it accomplishes its goal in that, right?
It does.
It does.
If you are not a brain dead moron.
No, there is something to be appreciated with just the perspective being thrown out there, and that they're not like evil monsters.
Yeah, so they didn't have like doctors and psychologists like they're all gonna die. They're just terrible.
These people are gonna shoot up movie theaters. Joker.
Look, there's this New York Times article written by this fucking dude. Like, let's go talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't do that, which is I think good.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah, I like, even though I think it wasn't the best documentary in the world, I still think it is worth checking out. You got like a couple days to watch it if you want to watch it before it's gone from Amazon. I don't know when it's gonna have its official like release, but it's part of that festival. It's yeah, I'm glad I watched it.
Me too.
Even twice.
Go check it out, boy.
All right. What would you give it out of 10? Did you give it a rating?
I did. I gave it 2, Sean. I gave it 6 at the first viewing and a 7.5
after the conversation.
After the conversation.
My mind went blank. Scotty.
Wow.
Scotty sent me a message and I was like, oh.
Oh, did he show you his balls yet?
No. He wouldn't do that to me. He respects me too much.
Give it time.
Give it time.
Give it time. Once he gets a little more comfortable.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure. I'm waiting for it. If he does, I will just send him my balls back. I don't even
just
care.
Wait until he gives you the candy.
I've thought about ambushing my friends with my balls as an adult. I was like, this would be really funny because I'm over 30 that I would do this now, and I never did it any other time in my life. I'm going through my Animal House phase.
Scotty, wait until Halloween. He does a candy corn trick. I won't ruin it for you.
Nice.
It's disgusting.
It's gonna be great.
And my water's turning brown. That's the end.
Okay. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.